When people talk about grand animated films of the 1990s, the conversation is often dominated by Disney's Renaissance era. But standing proudly alongside those giants is Anastasia, released in 1997, a lush, romantic hand-drawn epic produced by 20th Century Fox and directed by Don Bluth and Gary Goldman. Blending Russian history with fairy tale fantasy, Anastasia tells the story of a lost princess, an amnesiac young woman named Anya, and a sweeping journey from revolutionary Russia to 1920s Paris. It's romantic, tragic, magical, and for many of us who grew up with it, absolutely unforgettable. Here's a deep dive into the film's background, production, historical inspirations, controversies, trivia, and finally, my own personal review. Set in the alternate 1926, the film opens up during the Russian Revolution as the Romanov family falls. Young Grand Duchess Anastasia escapes the palace with her grandmother, the Dowager Empress, Maria Fedorovna, only to be separated in the chaos. Years later, an amnesiac young woman named Anya embarks on a journey to discover her past. Along the way, she meets conman Dmitri and Vladimir, who are searching for a girl to pass off as the lost Anastasia in order to claim a reward in Paris. Of course, in true fairy tale fashion, destiny has other plans. One of the film's greatest strengths is its traditional hand-drawn animation. Watching it today feels like stepping into a movie painting. The golden ballroom sequence, the haunting Once Upon a December ghostly waltz, snow-covered Russian streets, romantic Parisian sunsets. This old-school animation artistry, the passion in every sketch, every flowing dress, every chandelier reflection, is something modern CGI rarely captures in quite the same way. There's warmth, there's texture, there's personality, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The score by David Newman and songs by Stephen Flattery and Lynn Ahearns elevate the film beautifully. Journey to the Past, which was performed by Alaya for the end credits, is a song that became the film's emotional anthem and earned an Academy Award nomination. Once Upon a December, a haunting nostalgic waltz that perfectly captures Anastasia's fractured memories, also stood out. Not to mention A New Beginning, a romantic closing note that reinforces the fairy tale ending. The song would also go to place number 45 on the Billboard Hot 100 and would be performed by Donna Lewis and Richard Marx. The voice work is the major reason the film also endures. The adult version of Anastasia, of course, was played by Meg Ryan, while the child version was played by Kirsten Dunst. Ryan brings warmth, though, vulnerability and charm. Interestingly, though, she almost turned down the role due to the dark historical themes. To convince her, the animators created a short animated reel using audio from Sleepless in Seattle. She was blown away and later accepted. Liz Calloway would perform all the singing parts of Anastasia. John Cusack plays Dmitri, and he plays him as charming, but yet sarcastic. Though Cusack admitted early on that he couldn't sing, the animators didn't find this a problem, as they just cast Jonathan Dukachitz in the singing part of Dmitri. Kelsey Grammer lent his voice, of course, to Vladimir. For the villain of Rasputin, actors like Tim Curry and Patrick Stewart were considered, but the role ultimately went to Christopher Lloyd, whose theatrical performance gave the character a deliciously over-the-top menace. The comic relief character of Bartok the Bat was originally written with Woody Allen in mind. Then even Martin Short was considered, but Hank Azaria won the role within 10 minutes of his audition. As mentioned earlier, Journey to the Past would be nominated for Best Original Song at the 70th Academy Awards, while the film would also be nominated for Best Original Musical Score. It became the first non-Disney, non-Pixar animated film nominated since American Tail in 1986, another Don Bluth classic. Now, even though the film is fantasy, it does borrow heavily from the actual real history. The real Anastasia was the Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna of Russia, and she was unfortunately executed with her family in 1918 during the height of the Russian Revolution, ending, of course, the Tsarist rule of Russia. Grigory Rasputin was indeed a controversial advisor to the Romanovs. He was assassinated in 1916 by Prince Felix Yusupov and others. The film references this during a rumor in St. Petersburg when a woman offers Dmitri Count Yusupov's pajamas. Rasputin, who was a Russian mythic and self-proclaimed faith healer, became closely connected to the family of Nicholas II, the last Tsar of Russia. Born a peasant in Siberia, Rasputin experienced a religious awakening in 1897 and later traveled to St. Petersburg, where he gained influence among religious and aristocratic circles. In 1905, he met Tsar Nicholas II and Empress Alexandra Feodorovna. He earned the family's trust by easing the suffering of their son Alexei, who had haemophilia. While some saw him as a holy man, others viewed him as a manipulative charlatan. During World War I, Nicholas II left to command the army. Rasputin's political influence grew significantly, largely through Alexandra. This also increased public resentment towards the monarchy. In December 1916, Rasputin was assassinated. His controversial reputation contributed to the weakening of the Tsarist regime, which would collapse shortly afterwards, during the Russian Revolution. The Dowager Empress's tiara also resembles that of the Grand Duchess Vladimir tiara, once owned by Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna and later acquired by the British royal family. Surprisingly, the film was well received in Russia. Distributor Gemini Films marketed it explicitly as a not history but a fairy tale set against the backdrop of real Russian events. Many Russians praised its artistry and storytelling rather than viewing it as historical revisionism. However, criticism did exist. Some historians and members of the Russian Orthodox Church objected to the romanticized depiction of a tragic historical event. Anastasia was canonized as a new martyr in 1981 by the Russian Orthodox Church outside Russia, and some felt the film was inappropriate. One critic compared it to making a film where Anne Frank survives and opens a business in Florida, highlighting how sensitive the subject remains to Russians to this day. Yet over time, most Romanov descendants have accepted the repeated romanticization of Anastasia's legend with equanimity. Don Bluth has stated that Meg Ryan was his only choice for Anastasia. Originally, the cast was set to record separately, but once Ryan and Cusack recorded together, the chemistry improved dramatically. The filmmakers intentionally leaned into fantasy, giving Rasputin supernatural powers rather than portraying him realistically, making the film more fairy tale than historical drama. The climactic battle occurs on the Alexander III Bridge in Paris, named after Anastasia's grandfather, which in many ways perfectly symbolizes Anastasia's journey from tragedy to renewal. Now, I remember watching this film as a kid and absolutely loving it. Yes, it's historically inaccurate. Yes, it romanticizes something deeply tragic. But at the end of the day, it's clearly presented as a fairy tale. And what a beautiful fairy tale it is. The animation is breathtaking. The ballroom sequences are stunning. The dresses, the lighting, the atmosphere. It's pure 90s animation magic. The voice cast is excellent, with Meg Ryan bringing warmth, John Cusack with his natural charm, Kelsey Grammer adding elegance, Christopher Lloyd is gloriously theatrical, and Hank Azaria is hilarious. The music is also absolutely beautiful. Journey to the Past alone gives me chills. Most of all, I miss this style of animation. There's something soulful about hand-drawn films. Modern CGI, while technically impressive, often lacks that painterly intimacy. For me, this film stands the test of time. It may not be Disney, it may be controversial, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Anastasia gets a 9 out of 10. This is more than just an animated film. It's a snapshot of a time when large-scale hand-drawn animated epics were still thriving outside the Disney machine. It blends romance, history, music, and fantasy into something timeless. It's not a history lesson, but it's not really meant to be. It's a fairy tale about identity, belonging, and finding out where you truly belong. So what did you think of Anastasia? Please let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.